call it the battle for political redemption. Democrat Martha Coakley and Republican Charlie Baker have both tasted bitter defeat. Coakley falling to Scott Brown in 2010, Baker to Deval Patrick in 2012. Now, as the general election kicks off, both candidates are looking to wipe the slate clean. And Coakley started that process this morning at the Democrats' so-called unity breakfast. WGBH News reporter Adam Riley has more.
I am ready to get to work with all of you to make sure that we move forward, because
today at the Omni Parker House, the Massachusetts Democratic establishment gathered for a jam-packed political pep rally. Gubernatorial nominee Martha Coakley gave a relatively fiery speech.
It's a new day. Let's get to work. Let's make that new day ours. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Coakley's former opponents, Don Berwick and Steve Grossman, vowed they'd work just as hard for her election as they had for their own.
I will pledge every time that I can and all the energy that I have to help make Martha Coakley the next governor of Massachusetts, and I hope all of you will too. Thank you so much.
And there were repeated jabs at Coakley's GOP opponent, Charlie Baker, with current Governor Deval Patrick leading the way.
He is the consummate insider. He has a whole lot of friends to whom he has promised a whole lot of favors. He's willing to say whatever it takes to win.
The Democrats' plan is clear: paint Baker as an opportunist who will reverse the progress of the Patrick years. But after winning the Republican primary last night, Baker said the Democrats will attack him because they're bereft of new ideas.
I ask all of you to avoid being distracted by the negativity and the noise and focus on what really matters: our positive message.
In a new ad launched today, Baker does exactly that, chatting with his daughter Caroline about his gubernatorial ambitions.
Governor, Dad? That's a bit optimistic.
Why not? With Bill Weld, we made Massachusetts #1 in job creation.
The tone is aggressively upbeat, with Baker highlighting his political moderation.
You're totally pro-choice and bipartisan.
Bipartisan leadership's what we need on Beacon Hill.
Baker has said that when he ran for governor in 2010, the public didn't see the real Charlie Baker. Now he and the Democrats are offering two radically different takes on who that is.
And Adam Riley is here along with Marjorie Egan, co-host of Boston Public Radio 89.7. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks, Emily.
Well, they came right out of the box there with all those cliches. It's a new day. Charlie Baker with that ad that he was trying to riff off of Carl Shortino with that great ad about coming out to his dad, but or a little bit like Tim Cahill with.
Yeah, like maybe a combination of the two.
Treasurer and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I get what Baker's trying to do with the ad. He lost women voters by a big margin to Patrick 4 years ago. He obviously needs to do better this time around. So this is, the continued rollout of the newer, more gentle, more female-friendly Charlie Baker that we've seen. If I were his daughter, it'd be tough to be in the ad. It didn't exactly feel like a natural conversation that they would.
You don't think it was scripted, do you?
Maybe just a bit. You're totally pro-choice.
We were talking today, though, in the newsroom. I mean, no matter what Martha Coakley does, including winning the Democratic primary, she's criticized. She's, at least 2/3 of the Democrats didn't vote for her. First of all, most of these people weren't Democrats. They were independents who drew a Democratic ballot, and who knows what they'll do next time around. But she cannot win for winning.
Well, she's still got people, I think rather unfairly, 4 years later, blaming her for her loss to Scott Brown. I don't think anybody could have seen that coming into the last couple of weeks when he came rolling along like a freight train. Here's the thing. Neither of them are natural campaigners. Charlie Baker's not a natural campaigner. Martha Coakley's not a natural campaigner. Like he's got to win women, the suburban women that put Bill Weld over the top. She's got to win a lot of guys because an awful lot of men in Massachusetts clearly voted for Scott Brown. And she's got to get those men to vote for her. We haven't got yet the breakdown on the women's vote, but you look at the other person from her office, Maura Healey, who got this huge win over Warren Tolman. Martha Coakley should spend a lot of time on the campaign trail with Maura Healey.
We were talking about that last night. We were kind of saying we'll bet that it won't be Steve Kerrigan who's her daily running mate,
no, I don't
but rather
think so.
Maura
I don't think so.
All right, I got to share a little moment from the Unity Breakfast today. The governor gave a terrific speech, as he's wont to do, exhorting Democrats to stay true to their convictions, get out there and work for it. And he said, we can't take this race for granted. We can't assume we're going to beat Charlie Baker. We need to be nervous and go out there and sweat. And then Martha Coakley takes the stage and a couple seconds later says, with all the excitement and unity in this room, how can we lose in November? And it was I felt bad for her a little bit because it was sort of the worst thing she could have said. The knock against her running against Brown was that she took it for granted. I don't think she's really taking the governor's race for granted, but I bet that moment made a few Democrats wince.
Well, you know, the thing about Martha Coakley, and people have said this before, it's the prosecutor's disease, where you've been a just the facts man person for so long, you continue to be a just the facts man person. I saw her once at this party, a Christmas party or something, where she was dancing and lip syncing to Aretha Franklin's Respect, you know, and she's bopping all over the place. You thought, wow, look at this. And then, like Tom Riley, the AG before her, who lost as governor, like Scott Harshbarger, the AG before her, who lost as governor, when they get in front of the cameras, they're buttoned up. And she has a very difficult time answering a question with a straight answer. And I think she's got to work on that a lot, because it's annoying to voters, annoying to people when you ask a straight question and you get this dance. You know, Charlie Baker, who really annoyed people, women last time by being kind of the angry guy, he's less angry this time around. And whether that will pay, I don't know, but he seems to have learned more from his last campaign.
Has he says we didn't see the real Charlie Baker. Are we seeing it now?
You know, I actually thought that the whole angry Charlie storyline was oversold a bit last time around. I know that you know, there were ads that people tied it to. When I saw him on the stump, I've always found him to be a pretty compelling presence. And you know, remember when Scott Brown decided he wasn't going to run for governor, or it was decided that he wouldn't run for governor, and Brown came out and said, you know, we all know Charlie's not Mr. Personality, but he's going to run for the corner office. I would choose to have the hypothetical beer with Charlie Baker over Scott Brown. That's just me. But I think he's very careful to sort of not aggressively go after, say, Governor Patrick by name when he talks about problems at the state level. He makes them abstract and systemic. So maybe that's something he's learned. I thought he was better than he was reputed to be last time around. And I actually think I agree with you, he's not a natural, but I don't think he's a bad campaigner at all.
So I want to get to your predictions from last night in a minute, but I just want to touch on the, Marjorie, the John Tierney, Seth Moulton race.
Oh yeah,
and this was. I mean, it was tense. It was not a sure thing, and yet he really it wasn't that close in the end.
Don't forget last time when John Tierney ran against Richard Desai, the Republican, he barely eked it out, and a lot of people thought he eked it out because he got the big city vote that he was on the coattails of more
popular,
the presidential.
Exactly, the Obama. Forgot who that was there for a minute.
That guy.
The president. So I think Richard Desai is probably very unhappy today, because I think it's going to be a lot harder for him to beat Moulton, because Moulton's young, Harvard, he's, you know, tours in Iraq, combat, Marine, all these kinds of things. Tierney unfairly, I thought, last time painted Desai as this Tea Party right-wing nut, which wasn't true. Desai is like Charlie Baker, the moderate Republican, pro-choice, gay guy, and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see what happens.
By the way, John Tierney showed his true colors last night. He was so ungracious. It was actually shocking.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he's been in office 12 years, and I'm sure it's a huge disappointment, but you got to plan for these things.
Well, I think a lot of people had a lot of trouble with John Tierney, with his wife, with her offshore gambling deal there.
With the brothers.
And the seeming sense that he wasn't really behind his wife in a way you wanted a husband to be, even though he said he was. The whole thing, I think, made people very uncomfortable. I think, and there is why Desai came so close last time around.
All right, Adam, you're waiting for the results. You pretty much nailed it.
I would like to talk about the results, yeah.
All right, here we go. You and David Bernstein, we had on last night.
Almost totally agreed.
All right, you almost totally agreed. You both got governor, you got lieutenant governor, you got attorney general, you got Middlesex DA. I wouldn't have predicted that one.
You know, I'm going to disclose
Moulton.
something on air. Maybe I shouldn't do this. I think that was David's pick, and I hadn't picked in that race. So let's credit him for that one.
Okay. Yeah. And there was one where you differed. Bingo.
Yeah, right.
Adam got Deb Goldberg. David went for.
I should also confess that the Healey-Tolman race.
You don't have to.
I thought she. Well, you know, I'm going to be transparent. The Healey-Tolman race. I thought she was going to pull it out. I think she's a terrific candidate, as we've been talking about. I had no clue that she was going to break 60%.
I mean, it was 2-1.
It was massive. I know.
And you know what? A fascinating question here is, remember when Marty Walsh was elected mayor and Labor helped make him mayor, and it was supposed to show sort of the resurgent labor movement embracing and flexing its political power. I don't know what it says that this guy who got pretty much all the big labor endorsements, whose brother is the head of the AFL-CIO, got blown out of the water by someone who most voters hadn't heard of a few months ago. I think one thing it may show is that the gay and lesbian vote is incredibly powerful. They really liked her because she took DOMA to the Supreme Court.
Certainly, Warren Tolman is not only a likable person, a likable candidate, you know, formidable.
Everybody loves Warren Tolman.
Loves him. Yep. So the fact that she blew him out of the water is pretty amazing.
And by the way, with endorsements from Governor Patrick and Mayor Marty Walsh, which I really do think backfired.
All right, Adam Riley, Marjorie Egan, always a pleasure to have you on.